Hello everybody and welcome back to Let's Play ChäoS Head. One second. My timer ready to go. Okay, so it's been something like a month since the last time I recorded, so I don't really recall what was going on in this section here. But I am sure it's really not too big of an issue. Let's go ahead and we'll go with the green. I tentatively held the winning stick toward her. Senna pursed her lips and gingerly accepted the winning popsicle stick. Surprise left me speechless. To think I'd hear words of gratitude from Senna's lips, it was a situation far exceeding my imagination. Perhaps unaware of my startlement, Senna cast a look at me and muttered only those two words before wiping her face away. Was it a figment of my imagination, or had she seemed a little bit flushed just now? Well, I'd changed my view of her a bit now that she'd given me her sincere thanks. I thought she was scary, but parts of her were cute as well. Kozupi twirled in place and peered happily at our faces. Oh, that line's from... It was a speech quirk in the mother of all tsundere games, Suga no Jun. When I inadvertently broke into a grin, Senna jabbed a finger at me. It was the first time I'd seen such an adorable flustered Senna. Beginning to feel a tad mischievous, I asked her an experimental question. Senna muttered ambiguously. Was it possible for a popsicle to be cute or uncute? I see, the mascot character. Was it actually cute? You know, I don't think we've ever actually seen the mascot character, at least not yet. Her expression as she spoke was indeed that of a maiden in love. But, well, different people have different interests and tastes and whatnot. Oh, okay, I feel like that was way too short for her. I felt like I told her before, but apparently she'd forgotten me.
Nishijo Takumi desu. Huh?
Saved her, huh? What had happened in Kozupi's past? It also bothered me that she had mentioned wishing to kill.
ストックすればするほど、ギガロマニアックスには現在の状態とのズレが発生し、やがてその矛盾により存在としての自己崩壊へ至る。
You sure you're speaking Japanese?
梢もあまりディソードを出すのはやめるんだ。普通に生活していきたいなら私の忠告を聞け。これはお前たちの命に関わる話だ。
Senna didn't appear to be saying it as a joke. She wasn't the type to joke around. As far as we know.
ましてや西条、お前はディソードなしでリアルブートした。本来ならそんなことできるはずがないんだ。リラックの海にはディソードを通してしか干渉できないんだから。
Well, Senna, maybe I literally am my sword. My D sword. You ever think of that?
お前は普通じゃない。奴らに目をつけられてもおかしくない。
奴らって。
Ah, yes, the mystical they.
ギガロマニアックスの力を悪用しようとしている連中がいる。
それって、将軍？
知らない。誰だそれは。
Kozapi, is Senna lying?
ついてないよ。
西条、将軍とは誰だ？
The chill in her voice made me shudder. Naturally, I couldn't bring myself to meet her eyes. She seized my shirt front. It became hard to breathe. Why was she so violent? Had I done anything wrong?
そいつは40代ぐらいの男か。
Don't think so. Looks a little too shriveled up to be 40s.
違うよ。小さなじいさんだよ。
You know, saying that he's a little old man doesn't exactly help because we're supposed to be in high school. And some people at that point would refer to somebody in their 40s as an old man. So just saying he's a little old man doesn't actually answer the question of, is he in his 40s? Senna let me go at once.
そいつもギガロマニアックスなのか。
わからない。でもニュージェネの真犯人だよ。
真犯人だと。
Senna laid a finger against her chin and lapsed into thought. A volatile atmosphere, unidentifiable anxiety. Senna knew something. What the heck was it? Who were the people trying to abuse the power of gigalomaniacs?
あ、そうだそうだ。3人で記念撮影しましょう。ほらあれ。
Not the right time, Kozui. Kozapi abruptly piped up in a cheery voice, pointing at something. It was the arcade next to the police box. If we were to take a commemorative photo there, it would inevitably end up. Yep, it turned out like this.
たくみさん、ほら真ん中。
いや、僕は。
セナさん、横見てたらダメです。
私はこういうのは。
コズピーだって初めてなのだ。時々。
Obeying the on-screen instructions, Kozabi kept pressing the buttons without obtaining our consent. Before Senna and I had time to mentally prepare ourselves, a voice came out of the screen.
はい、ポーズ。パシャッ。
Their D swords didn't show up. I only saw the one. Possible I was missing the one that's, I guess, supposed to be in Kozue's hand, but I didn't see. I only saw the one that looked like, I guess it was in Senna's hand. Yes, of course, they didn't show up in the photograph. Why would they? You know, that's supposed to be the whole thing.
ほいじゃあね。また明日だのら。
Kozabi waved her hand a little shyly, then vanished in the direction of the station's turnstiles. Senna and I watched her go. If possible, I didn't want to be left alone with Senna. Except, she didn't seem to be interested in heading home. Did she plan on wandering around the area again, as she usually did? I'd have liked to leave at once, but beforehand, there was just one thing I wanted to ask the Gigalomaniac's PhD no matter what. Even if I called out to her, Senna retained her ill-humored expression. It had been better than It had been better when Kozupi was here, but she remained off-putting. Heart thumping, I asked my question, deciding to assume my voice had reached her.
コズピーの心の声もギガロマニアックスの能力なの。
I didn't expect her to give me an answer. Whatever the case, I figured it would end up with her going, laughing at me. Senna cast a glance at me, then shifted her eyes to the Jumbotron by the pedestrian scramble.
心の声はいわば妄想だ。
She responded thus. That doesn't really help answer the question. I mean, it's an answer. Is it a useful answer? No.
梢はそれを他人のデッドスポットに送り込んでいるに過ぎない。仕組みはさっき説明したものと何も変わらない。
Okay, that helps a little bit more.
送り込んだ粒子を映像ではなく音声に変換しているんだ。そして梢から心の声という妄想を送り込まれたことで、お前と梢の間で周囲共通認識が成立したんだ。テレパシーで会話しているように思えるが、全然違う。
だったら僕の心の声はどうしてコズピーに届いたの？
I myself hadn't delivered any delusions to Kozupi's dead spots. If that were the case, Kozupi should only have been able to send a one-way transmission. Yet, we'd carried out a successful conversation with the voices of our hearts.
ギガロマニアックスは他人の妄想を見ることができる。梢は特にその能力が高い。他人が垂れ流す妄想をほぼ強制的に見せられていると言ってもいい。
Seeing delusions? Could someone really do that? I couldn't, so I didn't think I was a gigalomaniac. With a sudden distant look in her eyes, Senna transferred her line of sight from the Jumbotron to the crowd walking in the pedestrian scramble.
ギガロマニアックスとなったものは誰だろうと一度は壊れているんだよ。
壊れたって何が？
心がだ。梢は東京に来る前、奴らに追い詰められて心を壊した。
Is this the same mystical they as the one you mentioned earlier, or a different mystical they? And Senna began speaking of what Kozupi had experienced before she transferred. Senna said she had seen it, like a film, the first time she and Kozupi met. Are we gonna see it too? Yes, it looks like we will. Since an early age, Kozue had possessed a unique predisposition to see into others' hearts. Even so, she faced this ability in her own way, and somehow she had managed to lead a peaceful lifestyle by concealing it from other people. The change began with mirrors. Once she entered high school, Kozue began to frequently spot the reflections of mirrors as she went about her everyday life. At first, she had thought it a mere coincidence. It happened only about once or twice a day. But as the months went by, that frequency gradually increased. She would encounter people in possession of mirrors over 10 times per day. Those encounters themselves were nothing special. She saw people passing her on the road carrying mirrors, or students in the same grade as her fixing their makeup in the bathroom, nothing more. But whether it was a coincidence or something intentional, the reflection in the mirrors almost inevitably struck her eye. At last, those who bore the mirrors, all of them, began speaking to her in voices containing insinuating laughter. They called out to Kozue in her heart, asking, "Who are you?" In her classroom, in the school building, on the way to school, while she was shopping, such people appeared wherever she went. It wasn't any particular person, on the contrary, there were different people each time. But to Kozue, everyone holding a mirror began to seem suspicious. Everyone, laughing insinuatingly, began to seem suspicious. At last, she began to have the hallucination that even those without mirrors were asking her, "Who are you?" She became borderline neurotic, and those internal voices clung to the depths of her ears, refusing to leave. One day, Kozue faced a mirror reflecting her and murmured,
お前は誰?
The instant she spoke those 3 words, Kozue became afraid of no longer knowing who she was. A girl with the same face as her called to her from beyond the mirror.
お前は誰?
Ever since, she ceased speaking. She became unable to look at mirrors. Despite that, the demands of "Who are you?" continued to reach her. She could no longer even tell whose inner voice it was. A broken fax machine, incapable of blocking incoming transmissions. Considering the conditions set by her unique predisposition to hear the voices of other people's hearts, there was nothing she could do about it. Kozue's heart went to pieces. One day, after she became a sophomore, during after-class cleaning, 3 sophomore girls whispered something to each other while using hand mirrors to put on makeup in the classroom. Mirrors and insinuating laughter. And the calls of "Who are you?" she thus came to hear. Were they actually the inner voices of her 3 classmates, or else one of Kozue's oral hallucinations? She didn't care which. As Kozue's eyes quivered in terror, a mirror's reflection entered them. For a second, her field of sight went bright. Was it on purpose, or a coincidence? She didn't care which. Kozue's heart, which had been strained for over a year, broke with the sound of something crushing. Before she knew it, she was screaming, rather, shrieking. Her instinctive desire to kill controlled her. For the first time, she seized the D-sword she could see at the edge of her field of sight. She attacked her 3 classmates. With her real-booted D-sword, she severed their mirror-holding right hands in an instant. Well, that took a dark-ass turn. According to my minimum attendance shift chart, today wasn't a school-going day. I had one goal in going to school all the same. To see Rimi. Surely my juvie classmates would taunt me about this and that today as well. That was tough enough, but when you weighed it against the possibility of being able to meet Rimi, I could still put up with it. I recalled yesterday's events as I passed through the school gate. Senna had emphasized her warning as we parted.
お前が望むと望まないとに関わらず、もしこれ以上踏み込んでくるようなら、負を正にするぐらいの強い意識を持つんだな。中途半端な気持ちじゃ、妄想に食われるだけだぞ。
Because I didn't want to get caught up in anything dangerous seeming, I hadn't asked her anything more. In any case, I couldn't get my hands on a D-sword no matter how hard I tried. I'm no hero. I'm only a waste of space who can't even do a decent job of protecting his own little sister. Except, there remained the possibility that Shogun might appear before me again. Apparently, he was targeting me, as if we were playing a game, so the next quest might begin at his whim any time now. That terrified me. Even my attempts to acquire a D-sword had originally been for the sake of protecting myself from Shogun. Swordless, how could I escape his evil grip? If Rimi were with me? But it bothered me that Rimi was taking time off from school. What would I do if, this time around, Rimi were taken hostage the way Nanami had been? Was there anyone around who seemed likely to save me? The candidates would have to be those with D-swords. Ayase was injured, so that took her out of the running. I didn't think Senna would help me. And Kozubi was a little... no, considerably weird. Face lowered, I entered my classroom. Before I got to my seat, I took one look around the room. First, Rimi's seat. Empty. Was she absent today too? Was she really just skipping? Insecurity flickered through me. I wanted to meet with her. I wanted to see her cheerful face. Next, Kozupi's seat. Seated, she faced down and shrunk into herself. When I remembered the story Senna had told me yesterday, it made sense that Kozupi always carried herself that way.
おはよう、たくみさん。
But she still knows we're there and still talks to us. I'm still gonna call it telepathy. It's just a much easier way to refer to it. Good morning, Kozupi. Our eyes didn't meet, but we internally exchanged morning greetings. The delinquent girls watched me, grinning. It was the day after yesterday. I wouldn't yet be able to peel off the label of self-proclaimed psychic boy who's actually an otaku freak and made an idiot of himself on TV. The male thugs appeared not to have arrived yet. They often skipped our first period class, which was convenient for me. I sat down, and then that voice called my name.
たく、おはよう。
Startled, I hastily raised my head. Rimi stood right before my eyes. She seemed faintly bashful as she gave me a little wave.
久しぶり。
Rimi.
She wasn't an illusion. She had a definite presence. She was breathing. Her hair stirred. She was blinking. She was there. She was here. Something burned in the depths of my nose. I was assaulted by a squeezing sensation in my chest. I was about to weep. Half standing in my chair, I went motionless, head hanging. I was so glad I'd be able to see her again, or I'd been able to see her again.
ちょっとたく、どうしたの？もしかして泣いてるの？
I frantically shook my head. If the juvies nearby knew I'd cried here, they'd torment me again. I told myself I shouldn't cry, but the tears kept overflowing.
わかった。私に再会できて嬉しいんだ。そうでしょ。なんてね。ちょっと自意識過剰だったかな。
Rimi said in a bright, joking tone, and all I could do in response was go on shaking my head desperately. Still more, I couldn't look at her face properly. If I did, I'd definitely start bawling. That was when someone tapped me on the back.
Oh, Taku.
It was Misumi, looking ill at ease. The hand he patted me with was considerably more restrained than it used to be. Even though he'd ignored me before, I wonder why he was being nice enough to talk to me again. Talking with me would definitely bring misfortune on him. He'd end up being the target of the class Juvie's bullying. Right, it would be better for them if neither Rimi nor Misumi put up with a creepy otaku like me. When I held my silence, Misumi put on a forced smile.
暗いな。朝から新規臭いぜ。ま、お前はそういうやつだって分かってるけどな。
Those words of his sounded harsh, but I didn't sense anything like sarcasm or hostility in them. If he asked how I knew, it was because he'd always said such things to me.
そういう大臣は朝から無駄に爽やかだね。
無駄にとか言うな。久々に学校来たと思ったらいきなりそれか。
じゃあ、嘘くさい爽やかさ。
なたく、この言い草どう思うよ。
I nodded ambiguously. Somehow my tears had stopped. The usual scene lay before me. Neither of them acted concerned by the fact that my position in our class was becoming something very bad.
そういえば、岸本のことを聞いたか。まだ入院中らしいぜ。怪我は大したことなかったんだけど、精神的にかなり参ってるらしい。いいか、タク。女を落とすのに一番手っ取り早いのは、弱ってる時に優しくしてやることだ。
So you're telling us to go to the hospital and be nice to the girl that... I'd imagine the hospital has basically diagnosed her as at least temporarily suffering some form of psychotic break. Yeah, that sounds like a wonderful idea, Masumi.
というわけで俺、本気で岸本の見舞いに行こうかなと思ってんだよね。
Oh, good, you're talking about yourself. Never mind then. Go ahead, go to the hospital, visit the girl who is having a temporary psychotic break after a attempted suicide that is presumably somehow influenced, I imagine, by Shogun or the mysterious they. I don't remember the name of the organization. Like I said, it's been like a month since I last recorded for this, so I don't really recall some of the details, but yeah. I mean, I assume she didn't just magically decide, hey, I'm going to go ahead and try and commit suicide now all of a sudden. I'd imagine something happened that basically results in her being either encouraged or sort of forced, in a sense, to go ahead and do it. Either way, you have fun with that, Masumi. You have fun with that. You know, it'd be one thing if you were dating or something like that, but that's not the case. So it's a little bit weird that you're bothering to do this. It really is. And it's not like you're necessarily even friends either. Like, you have no relation. You go to the same school, that's about it.
大地咲いたブーブー。今度こそ彼女さんに刺されるよ。
I mean, if it's school days, definitely, yeah. Yeah, he's gonna get stabbed. Probably more than just stabbed.
お見舞いに行くだけだろ。別にやましいことじゃねえよ。
Oh, right. It's just gonna be a visit. Just gonna, you know, conveniently bring along some flowers of some sort. Maybe some sort of get well card and or a gift. You know. It's just a visit.
ほんの数秒前と言ってることが違うし。
Yeah, don't worry, Rimi. I don't believe him in the slightest about it just being a visit.
そういえばタクって岸本と知り合いだったよな。な、一緒に行ってくんね。
あ、
Again, realistically, we barely know her. I assume the only reason why he thinks we know her is because she has talked to us in the hallway, like once or twice. It was a typical topic of Masumi, sure enough, but because I'd been positive he would ask me about psychic powers or something, it startled me. Masumi kept chatting afterwards as well. It was the same as every time before now, with Masumi rattling on by himself, Rimi occasionally jumping in to poke fun at him, and me only grunting vaguely. But it's been the same as before But it's being the same as before made me happy. You know, my timer only has like 2 minutes left on it, so we're going to go ahead, I think, end this part here at one of those scene transitions because, yeah, no telling how long this scene is going to be. So I will see you all next time. Quick reminder, if you find yourself enjoying this series, there are ways to help support the channel so that I can continue to bring you various forms of content. The two biggest ways are going to be to support the channel either via my Patreon, which you guys get some goodies if you support the channel that way, such as early access to videos. The other route is to support the channel via Streamlabs. I have a Streamlabs donation link down below in the description. If you use that route, you don't get any goodies. You just sort of get the good feeling that you help the channel out more because if you go the Patreon route, Patreon takes a 5% cut of whatever is given. And I don't believe they have a maximum amount that they take, but I could be wrong about that. But either way, if they do have a maximum amount, it would require like hundreds or thousands of patrons to actually hit that anyway. So it doesn't matter, or doesn't really matter for a channel like mine, which would maybe only get a couple of people who would support the channel via Patreon. But nonetheless, those are the two biggest ways to support the channel. Some games have like affiliate links down below for picking up the game and whatnot. In this case, because I'm playing a fan translation of a game that is not available officially in English, there is no affiliate links down below. So for this series in particular, the only way to support the channel are Streamlabs or Patreon. Take your pick. If you want to support the channel, like I said, those are the two best ways to do it, just in general even, not just for this series. And that allows me to be able to buy new hardware for my computer to be able to bring you guys higher quality content, because I can play games at higher resolutions or higher frame rates, yada yada yada. Things of that nature. But if you want to stay updated with what's going on in the channel, about any potential interruptions to my recording and or streaming schedule, had a bit of a break over the holidays, and then because of some personal things that came up, which if you're in the Discord, or you've checked my YouTube community tab, whatever you want to call it, you know sort of why there was also a bit of a personal break after the holidays ended. But if you want to stay up to date with what's going on the channel, generally speaking, I don't post outside of the Discord, just because I'm lazy. Is really the best way to describe it. So if you want to know what's going on with the channel, I do highly recommend that you join the Discord so that you can know what's going on. But that is going to be it for this video. Like I said, I will see you all next time. Until then, goodbye and farewell.